Hi, and welcome to Conscious Community. My name is Ashley, and I will be your host this evening. There will be a brief Q&A session at the end of tonight's presentation. First, let's start by introducing tonight's speaker, Marya Michaels. Love and self-realization have been core to Marya's work within the fields of education and transformation for 40 years. Throughout her life, Marya has surrendered to the heart's endless reservoirs of love and now has become love's intimate voice. Marya is an author that holds a bachelor's in early childhood education, is a spiritual meditation teacher and ordained minister with a great passion to teach others how to live a more balanced life with a greater sense of purpose. Join me in welcoming Marya as she speaks to us about earth, love, and freedom, igniting the freedom to your heart and soul. Welcome, Marya. Take it away.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here. I'm so honored to be here. I can't tell you how honored I am. A little emotional to start off with because this has been a big, big moment for me at this time. Feeling that this is a time when if there was ever a need for us to feel renewed and to feel strengthened and to feel not exasperated by life, but freed within, it's now. And so anyway, I just want to thank you for showing up. And also love to thank all associated with A.R.E, Edgar Casey's foundation, to welcome me and welcome others so that we can all share in the passion of what we're here for and the passion of what we want to share with others. So I would love to first kind of claim a rite of passage for everybody who's looking at me right now. And that rite of passage is you're here in the room that you're in, looking on this screen, looking at me currently, but you're here on this earth, more than that, to be who you are, to be who you came here to be, for you to know how significant you are as a human being. And if there's ever a time when we need to not measure anything about ourselves, to feel that we're not adequate enough or we never did something well enough, it's time to let all of that go. There are so many ways I have learned about that through my own life experience, but also how important that is in the lives of children. I feel that we're all still children in some ways. We want what we want when we want it. We want a lot of things, including we want others to acknowledge us for who we are, but we don't always receive that. So what I would like to talk about tonight are probably, I will call it a smattering of items, because this is not long enough to cover all that I would love to cover, and even all that was listed under my my photo and my topic. But I will cover as much as I can, really the things that I feel like are most important for you to get to know me better and maybe have an opportunity to spend more time with me in future sessions. And I want to say this right away. If you're on this call, towards the end, we will be providing an opportunity, and it might even come up soon on Facebook. One of my teammates will be providing a link so you can attend 3 free group sessions so that you can taste this right away, and they will start next week. I'm tired of waiting to get all this information out there, because I feel like what I've learned in my own, I don't even want to call it a life, in my own journey that's been not always easy. No matter how much I meditated or how much I had a healthy lifestyle, life still happens, as we know. And the more we can enjoy life and keep moving forward in all kinds of ways, no matter how long we've been inside, no matter how many people we know have been sick or more, we really are here to support one another. And I'm in front of that line right now that I'm here. This is my life purpose. And because I know I'm not getting any younger, there's no time to waste. So what makes my work unique And it's not something I drummed up or thought up. With all the training I've had, this happened organically. I came to the point where I realized pure love and open heart was magnificent. I saw it in so many others. I experienced it a lot myself, but I realized there are times when I'm rather weak-kneed. I don't feel like I have enough to protect myself when things are even going fairly well. Sometimes people are rude, they're unkind, they're indifferent, you're sometimes invisible to who you are. And my purpose now is to help people find a way beyond that. And so this idea of love as a power, that could be interpreted in all kinds of ways. But my purest definition of it is it's real love. It's real love. Love is not meant to be even sappy or just romantic. We know the shortcomings of partial love, or even trickery involved in love. And it's in all the songs, the movies, it's all out there. And that's fine. It's sometimes what keeps us entertained. But the point is, we are not here to wait on who we are as wise beings. That means anything that I say tonight and share tonight or in my future sessions, we all have access to our own magnificence that will bring forth more knowledge, more wisdom, more healing energy within the body, because it's all coming from the love that is one with our planet. And that's the key point. This idea came to me years ago in a way I never would have known about. And it was really kind of a happy time. I was at a conference, and towards the end of the conference, I was feeling pretty good. It was on soul mentorship, and our teacher worked with us a long time. So our experiences of love and soul and union with others deepened. So by the time this weekend was near to a close, unlike me, who I'm usually not that visual in terms of spiritual experiences, I'm much more sensitive in other ways. I saw this gold pyramid in my mind's eye, and I'm like, what is this? I don't usually get visions. And then before I knew it, I had a very strong vision of an elephant. Now, this might sound rather woo-woo to you, and that's okay, because that's part of who I am anyway. But it's authentic. What I'm sharing is, out of the box. I had no idea what was going on. So I spoke to my teacher, who was more than the average guy in terms of wisdom. And I said, what's this about? Can you explain why I just saw this? And he said, in his knowing way, he said, the heart of the earth is moving into your lower chakras. Now, I don't know if you've become acquainted with chakras, but they're the energetic spaces in the body that keep us well. If there's a lot of flow, like if you studied Chinese medicine, you're familiar with qi. It's a little bit similar to that. Anyway, I didn't really know what it meant, but I did actually start to feel not too well. And I think I started to actually experience something that I had never experienced before. And by the time I received the real whammy experience, I realized something in me had transformed. And I was beginning to feel like the children that I'd see, or even the animals, they were my own in terms of not a possession, but I was one with them. And ever since, that has been the experience. And I realized we're all in the same experience, whether we're experiencing it or not. It's all available to all of us. Not only that, we'd want to have some experience like I just described, but believe me, I already knew how to love a child. This was way beyond anything that I'd ever experienced. And I realized we are made as vessels of love. And because of all the things we go through, we're stuck in one way or another, oftentimes, because of the history that we've gone through. So the musculoskeletal system, any part of the body, the upper chest cavity where we might have a cough, some of it's not based on something we caught from another. some illness, but it can be energy that's stuck. And that energy will keep us from feeling as free as we can. And it can also keep us from actually being our own best healer in terms of being in the spirit of love all the time. Now, I want to say we still need the medical profession big time, obviously, and whether it be Western or Eastern medicine. This is how we do self-care, though. Will help those who are caring for us better if we're taking care of the insides. And you know, the funny thing about this is when I was a young child, I was very quiet, but I felt so much empathy towards other students. You know, the teasing that went on, and even some of the teachers that would easily ridicule a child for doing something they thought was wrong. And I realized, wow, this is a kind of a scary place. And so I wasn't really that comfortable a lot of the time in my early childhood education. But what happened was it brought me to working with young children and realizing the only thing that I really need to do for these children, other than teaching them the basics and curriculum, is to make sure they know they're loved. And I feel like many of us got part of that, but not the whole deal. You know, we know how to feel love, we know how to reach out, but there's so much more that's available if we learn how to call upon. This is one of the key points. I actually emphasize this a lot in my group sessions. We call upon the power of not only the love, I want to say, but the beloved that's within each of us. And that beloved, I don't use that word lightly, but it's everything I say is pretty much given to me. I don't make this stuff up. I couldn't if I tried. As a person, but also strong with some quality of forgiveness for any mistakes we think felt like we didn't that we're just not enough. Which it was calling upon more. We can always call upon more. We can always be more. We can always take more language. We can always the piano in a symphony or whatever it is. We can always do that, but we can't everything all the time. So how do we measure? All of those standards have been set before us, maybe since we're young. We put those aside, remember who we are, divine beings. And before we're born, and again, you can take any of this or leave it, but this is my information. You're here, so I'm speaking it. We were all love. And that is the basics. When we see a child, maybe that's 2 or 3, normally we see a radiant face. We see a child, even when they're upset, they recover very quickly. It's because they're still embodying that love and light that was there at birth. And when we move forward in life, the cool thing is we don't have to give it up. In fact, we can retrieve it no matter how old we are. And we can retrieve it more when we do certain things. The bigger one I would like to mention in that regard is to know that we are all divine and not to play that down. We are all divine beings, and we were made to progress in life, to do wonderful things. And we can do it more fully if that part of ourselves is activated on a consistent basis. And the only reason we forget to do that is because we give, many of us, and I'd say most of humanity, tries to help someone along the way. Whether it's an uncle or a sister or a brother or a good friend, the nature of a human heart is giving. But the problem is things happen as the child grows up and things go awry. So what I would love to do now is, just to say a sound for you. I never go by an outline. I have one, but I never know. This is what comes. The sound is ka. Now, what in the world is that about? It's a word that I received. I'm very auditory in what I receive. And I'm not a channel. I don't want to make that clear. I'm just here to embody who I am, who I was in the first place. And that's my intention for anyone who's interested in what I do and would like to try it out. But that sound ka, every sound has an impact on everything in the environment and on the universe. But the ka is the sound I use, especially with people that I'm working with. I've introduced this a few times. It's the sound that one can use to release the stuff in the atmosphere. That means if I'm worried, maybe I had a tough day, and somebody else said something to me at work that didn't make me very unhappy. There are a good many things I can do to release that. But one of the quick ways I've learned is to sound not only that syllable, ka, but to make it felt in my entire body. Now, I'm giving you an advanced technique here, but this is really what this is about. This is not anything I could, again, have made up, but that sound ka is a universal frequency that can shift energy that's dense, unhappy, cruel even. Now, I don't know how fast that would happen, but it's a beginning for you to know we all have ways to develop our own toolkits for staying staying free. And that's one of the words in this presentation, freedom. And that freedom has many connotations, right? And many of us have not felt very free in the past few years. But the point of this is it has to start on the inside. And if we're not starting on the inside, then it's harder. We can still travel at the right time and place. And I probably shouldn't even said that because most people don't travel as much, although that's changing some with some issues. But maybe just sit out in your backyard and write a book or something, but do things that you wouldn't have done before. And it could be what you eat. Sometimes people are very strict with a healthy diet. Sometimes you just want to have a piece of chocolate, right? Or something else. We're here to enjoy. And that's another big part of my lesson, because I can get very serious in trying to accomplish things regarding my soul purpose. But to do joy every day, it's not frivolous. And I want to say, as often as possible, and include those you care about. Put the list aside. Go out and enjoy the fresh air and smell the flowers, all the stuff we see in advertisements. But it really has to do too with, in your heart of hearts, what do you still long to do? It could be anything, right? But you know what those things might be. And sometimes they're free. So cost does not have to be involved there. And there are ways that I can recommend that you can make that more consistent, regular experience. And it's not because I have the magic potion, it's because you have the magic potion. But it means you focus upon joy as the way into more power as a love presence. Because what joy does is it opens the heart. It challenges, I keep saying the musculoskeletal system, that's pretty much it. It challenges the musculoskeletal system to open up. And I have an experience that I'm going to share very briefly about this. I've told it many times. Once I went on a cruise with a friend when I was a public school teacher over spring break, and I had a very excruciating pain in my back, but I chose to go anyway. It got a little bit better, I guess, because some part of me, maybe my back, knew I was going to some pleasurable place. I ended up taking a walk up this waterfall, that had steps, that had big rocks that you stepped on. By the time I got to the top, the back pain that I'd had for at least a week went away and never came back. So that was a huge lesson for me. And I'm not recommending anybody do what I did. But the point is, joy heals. It at least opens the body. Yeah, what is it? Norman Cousins did a lot of good healing work by watching funny movies. I won't go into details, look it up, but it's pretty amazing. So we really underplay the importance of joy. And that's why sometimes I say children were my greatest teachers and still are, because they won't have it if we're too serious. They do something to make us laugh, or maybe even throw something at us because they want to laugh and they want to see us react. So remember, when we watch a young child, we're not just watching a young child, we're watching a divinity in action. We're watching divinity in the frequency of love that won't give up on us. The children don't give up on us if they're still having a quality life. And I know there are all kinds of things that I've been very upset about in terms of what children go through. And that's nothing new. But I'm not Pollyanna about this with children at all. But I do want to say that this presence of divine love in all of us is available anytime. But we have to know that love will not be the only cure. We have to know that we have to require certain things in our own worlds for the love to even want to show up. And every one of us have a different history. And some of us might not want to open the heart that quickly if we haven't really ventured into that territory very much. But the main reason that I would mention that the heart is not to be taken lightly or to just show up is because the body is also very aware. The body has its own, I wouldn't call it energy inside of it, where it might be something not so happy, like maybe there's a history. And sometimes, we hear a lot about trauma in a person's experiences, and then from the past, and then something that happens later that's harder. So bringing all that to the fore and then letting it go, I just want to say that the body does keep records of how happy we are. Now, how does that work? I'm clueless, but I know it happens. And it's because when let's say if somebody sneezes and then someone goes, ooh, I'm going to move away from you now. Well, it's for good reason, maybe. But the point is, the body is aware that someone's not happy with this body. I mean, it can be so subtle, and a person has to be kind of aware as to how the body's responding. Sometimes I have felt maybe even a little pain in my knee, and I haven't, knock on wood, had knee issues, but I realized it's an energy. There's something that I've been thinking about that I've got to let go of. So how we think and how we respond to others can have a lot of impact on the body. And we know that, if we've had an argument and suddenly get a headache, or the big one often is the stomach ache, which can be associated with the gut, not enough fire there. I never get it right. The fears that people have about public speaking. Why do we tell people to breathe into the belly? Because they've got to feel the power of the whole body, which includes the soul union with divine. Now I'm getting more and more into different territories, but you'll get the drift more if you're with me. And it's not an advertisement. I just really want to support people in future sessions. But this love idea doesn't work the same for anyone. I feel my design was in a way by accident, because I wouldn't have learned about anything in terms of power and love the way I word it, where I worshiped. I learned a great many amazing things about love, but I didn't learn that much about the power piece. And I have to say, especially as a little girl, it wasn't in the air at all. So it had to do with the power of huge magnificence that I had to see in wonderful people. Like, what makes them tick? They know how to love. I was fortunate to have quite a few of this in my life because my father was a clergyman. But I put all that to the side, and I went on my own journey from then on into my adulthood. Not all of it, but I had to create my own vision of what life was going to be about for me. So the power of divinity that I'm speaking of is not anything that I can mention any more clearly than what I just did. Um, and I really feel that if you're also engaging with the writings and recordings of Edgar Cayce, you've got a good handle on this already. And I'm very grateful for that he was on this planet, and he was a way shower for many of us who are coming into our gifts or have been for quite some time. And I also want to mention that the maternal part of any woman that wants to caretake, we are provided for through this spiritual awakening from the heart, because caretaking is one aspect of love, but the other part is receiving from others, be it male or female. We are really needing to receive more. The divine feminine that I will mention here, and again, if I'm using too many terms that are either not feeling that exciting to you, or you're not that interested in them, no worries, but I'm going to keep going. But I just want to know, I don't want to know, I want to tell you that I'm not claiming any absolute truth here for anyone. So you listen to your own voice inside later on, or even now, okay? But this divine presence that we all have. And there are those who write about the divine feminine and the divine masculine. I think we have it all. And that could be a whole other conversation and book. And there are many books written on it. But the point is, the love that we're all part of is not here to be weak. And it's not here to be subservient. And we're not here to be lost in someone else's power. And we know that's been a big problem in our world. So I would like to just emphasize the power I speak of is a frequency, just like we think of a frequency of light or sound. It's a frequency of, I want to call it divine light, okay? And again, this may be way more than you wanted to hear tonight, but here it is. And it's in my book, which I'll show you in a while if you haven't seen it already. But it has to do with the power of light that's inside of everybody's soul. And the more we accentuate the blessing of being alive, supporting others, and to really being in an equal balance with other people, that frequency will keep building, because that's how we're made. We're made equal. When kids are young, they're not comparing themselves to each other. They're just having fun time. And if that starts, I know as a teacher, I nip that in the bud fast. It's like, no, you're not going there, because it will keep going. It will be a pattern or a belief system that will shrink all the good stuff. So that is one aspect of love that I felt called to mention. Also, if there's a way that you would like to know more about this idea of divine light, divine love, I feel like it's the most important thing that anyone in any faith, religion, spiritual walk can teach, because it has to do with what we're made of. And if we're pulled back because we don't feel like we're enough for some reason, we don't get the full amount of what we came into this world with. And we can keep continuing on this this theme any night, any time. I don't want to overdo it here, but you are going to know if you start just calling upon the light. That's all I tell people. People pray, people do all kinds of practices that are perfect for them or perfect for me. But I know this is a quick way and it works. I just call upon the light and ask, please make this day go well. Or I'm asking the light to create an opening for people to manifest a new home. You know, there are all kinds of very tangible things that people yearn to have. You know, if they're having financial difficulties, or if the car just broke, you know, what are they going to do? I'm calling on light to bless those people so something works out. And I realize people pray about things like this all the time. This is just a kind of a fast avenue for people in kind of a it's in a way that's not putting people in categories of what they do in their lifestyle and their beliefs. It's quick. You know, it's sort of like it fits all, right? And I want to ask, not right now, but if in the future you're in my presence online, maybe one day in person, I'm hoping that can happen soon. What would you do? What would you do to support another person? Not only what are you doing now, what else? Because I feel like we need to still look into what we can do to support others more than we have, because the world is going through so much, as you know, but we never know what's next these days, right? But instead of covering our heads and hoping for the best, we can find ways that actually may not be totally foolproof at this point, but they might be, by calling on the light, because miracles are often referred to with kind of this magic association. But this is more like miracles are miracles. They're not made up. They happen. They've happened for eons. And miracles are one with everything that's light. And that is something that I would probably also associate with the angelic realm, that we're all made of light. And how wonderful we can call on the light or an angel or any aspect of divine light and get some help. Because we have a lot going on down here, right? We have a lot to deal with. And actually, each of us should be congratulated for making it this far, or not even congratulated, but we're really lucky, because some people, you know, aren't here anymore that we long to see again. But of course, I feel like there's never an end to the light or the love. So that's again another topic, and written about in many books. So I would like to next, I'd like to call upon one more thing that would be a takeaway for you, besides just calling upon the light, and play with this. That's how I've learned a lot of things. I don't do things that don't work. I can't be bothered. But the power of light is one. Okay. I want to call upon, I'm getting a little download here. I'm calling upon the divine light for, a particular area that is war torn. Okay, I'm going to call on light for them. I won't say where it is. There's more than one. You know that. But I want to put no one in there as a person, but I could call on a country, okay, and call on light and ask not only that the light work there, because that seems like far-fetched, right? How could that possibly help? That everything is going on there that's disastrous. But I would call upon the soul of the leader, okay? And I would ask the soul to be enveloped in the light with me. Now, this is another one that sounds far out, but we're in union, okay? We're in union with humanity. Now, the ones that we particularly not like to be in union with, if we're in the light, we're not in union with anything that's not light, okay? But with a soul that is trying his hardest or her hardest to manifest results. Many people pray for the leaders of their country or other countries. This is another way to do it. But to call on the soul is pretty instantaneous, because the soul of anyone is not, just not to be taken lightly. It's a real thing, right? And when we think of souls who have passed, same thing. Again, you don't have to swallow this from me, but this is what I get. is the power of divine light is going to move from you to the soul that's out there waiting to be shown what comes next, because some souls take a little while to move into the next experience. We call heaven by most people, but that's also another topic. If there's free will, we also can use our free will to the highest and best by calling on divine light for even those who we might consider not religious or not good enough or spiritual enough. And why would we want to do that? And some of you probably already do that through your own spiritual vigils or ceremonies. We want to call on the light for those, because sometimes those people who are having a hard time and may upset us are dragging a whole family system behind them. Many people I know are taking trainings. One is called constellation work, where they actually identify people who have had a hard time in the family line. It could be 3 generations back. And some people are carrying it all behind them and having a hard time. And it could be through, alcohol abuse or some other way it's showing up, because it's just too much for one person to carry. So that's another deep thing to talk about in the introductory remarks. But these are the kinds of things I'm getting. And I know that Edgar Cayce did not hold back much. And it was, I guess a lot of it was when he was asleep. Or if not, I don't know what the percentage of it was for him. But I know that when we're all awake, we don't have to wait to tell what we receive. And if it's considered malarkey, then look to other sources or just go inside of yourself and find your own answers. And that is, to me, the most important thing, is to go inside your heart, go inside your body sometimes. Where's the tightness? Where do you need to breathe into that tightness? What happened? Are you still sad? Because boy, the body will be so grateful if we learn how to identify what's going on in there. So the only other way I would express this about the family system is if we're feeling sad that we've lost someone, and I want to say, even if it was a long time ago, if you're still grieving, there's something that I'm being called to share, which is there's no separation in love, ever. None. And even if we can't be with the person, which is the hardest part, we are still, let's say, inclined to think, I wish I could call that person, or I wish I could send a smoke signal or something to get them to pay attention, because I'm really, really sad. It always works. And again, don't take my word for it, try it out, to call upon the soul of whoever passed. And sometimes I have found I'm being called by someone who's passed. And that's not anything strange, as it has sometimes been interpreted. It's innocent, and it's happened to me when I'm in the brightest place possible. It could be in a church sanctuary. It could be when I'm praying. It's like we are so not separate. And if we think we are, it's okay, but you'll suffer more by thinking everything and everyone is separate. And grieving is still essential. It takes time. It's different for everyone. The gift I had when my one parent passed was I let myself feel all of it. I didn't hold back any. I cried a lot, and I talked to him. I did everything I could to just feel it. And within a year, I had really moved on, and I still feel that connection. So I guess I'm saying this because some of you listening have lost someone recently, or you're still getting over a loss. And hopefully I've prepared anyone who will lose someone. We're all in that boat. It's never fun to look forward to. But I believe it's important for us to get that. So what I would like to touch upon next is just that some of the things I referred to are available for anyone in terms of some of the basics about what I've said about love, light, um, loving the body, feeling good about it, knowing that we have much more within than we thought. And I think the biggest one is freedom that I'm leading to in what I've not only written, but what I'm still designing. And that freedom is that internal presence that we have so much here. We have so much here. And it's about waking it up, working it. And I have to say, it's got to be a consistent thing. Like, you got to really want it. And once you start to get more and more of a taste, you don't want to stop. So the idea of it is, let's just be who we came here to be. Okay. We all have this. We all have this. I would want to even call it bliss at times. I know I spent many, many years practicing a form of meditation called transcendental meditation, and bliss was heaven. It was heaven. And I taught a minister to practice it, and he said, now I know what bliss is. So, we're all in this mixed together. There's a lot of separation between people's beliefs, but I don't think it's always the end road that we're all right about anything. Okay, so this is a book that I wrote, and it's a very succinct book. Someone called it a train ride years ago, but it's called Fire Love: Igniting the Freedom of Your Heart and Soul. And it was a book I wrote after I had thrown away many short manuscripts. But I thought, I am not writing this. Something higher in me has to write it. So I finally wrote it, and it's short, but it's got some points in it. I'll read one just to give you a sample. Let's see which one is the best here for now. A freeing and exacting power and love exists for all who are ready to say yes to more. Love is everywhere, but is not always apparent or felt in the human experience or hour of need. An open-hearted policy alone is not sufficient in a world that doesn't always feel safe or acknowledge the power of the soul or the unifying love that we share as a humanity. There is a vast and unknown power of love that need not wait to be called upon in moments of grief or desperation. In other words, work on it before you really need it. This frequency of love, referred to in this book as fire love, can be straightforward and unrestricted in its ability to open up, shake, shift, and reveal what must be altered for the sake of self and others. This significant experience of love has the capacity to create healing power in the heart and soul of anyone who is willing to step up to something more intensely inviting and liberating in life. This experience may also be felt in the body. And I know it's a given. It will be felt if you're consistent with inviting the power of love and into the body and accentuating what you already have. The best example of how to aspire to this significant experience of life is to observe a child. Young children embody love in its purest essence. They are love-inspired beings, ongoing. Later in life, if one can open up to this internal essence consistently, love essence can be more conducive to generating love as power. And this power is really what I call, and many of you are familiar with probably, is Shakti. It's the power of light that is intensive. If you think of lightning, right? But it's not hurtful. In fact, it's cleansing, it's purifying. And that Shakti can align with the power of love in the body and shift the misery that may have been, I want to say, coexisting with a humorous personality. Interesting that's coming up. A lot of people who are very funny suffered a great deal, and they've used humor to cope. So you can be funny without all that you push aside, or that I push aside. It has to do with the power of the delivery of love. Sure, I'm upset. I'm going to say what I need to say. And this is coming from a place of not only love in me, but the power of what I deserve as a human being. And that's where I feel like the rubber meets the road. When we're able to do that from a place of love, it's really, I want to say it's miraculous in a way. Because usually it's either or. We're either angry or we're loving. And it can flip and flop all over the place. And it's usually not experienced very nicely internally to have that going back and forth. So what I'd love to do at any point in time in this world is to teach people to work with this, because people do things sometimes out of anger or hostility that keep them in literally lockdown, right? People do things because they're so sad and so forlorn and so upset. And if people could learn how to flip the love into the power, and that not a power that's destructive, but the power that has a voice. And if people aren't hearing that voice, then the love has got to leave this person, maybe through a mentor or another person, but there have to be way showers when we're developing in this way. It's not an easy path to do by yourself. I'll be honest about that. And I have a lot of amazing, especially women friends who have, locked arms with me and said, let's do this. It's not an easy time to be alive, but by God, we're all in this together. And that is the value too of a really strong community, being within a place of worship or anything. I feel like I want to really emphasize this about that what can be hostility without the guidance. If people are trying to be heard and no one's listening, that's when the trouble starts. And I won't take that any further, but we know there are many people who've done things that are very regrettable because no one would listen in the first place. And that starts in schools. And it starts with teachers that are too busy. I'll be honest. And teachers have too much to do. And right now I could not even begin to evaluate a teacher because I was not, during COVID, a teacher. But teachers have way too much to do. And there needs to be someone intervening more than a guidance counselor that sees the children maybe once a week to help them find a new way to see themselves and a support system. So this might sound Pollyanna, but it's so strong. I had to mention it. Okay, lastly, I guess there's two things. I have an audio book that does have photographs. It has the same photographs as this hardcover book. This is from Barnes & Noble, and that's how you can order it. It's a photograph coffee table book, and this has the same things on it. So anyway, but you can get this book on Amazon for if you want to get the the digital version, you can get it free. Okay, but if you want to get this book, it's really inexpensive. So $10 or $15, I forget which. But anyway, that's that. It's a way to kind of figure it out. I also have a website, maryamichael.com, and it will be changing pretty soon to talk more about what I'm doing now. A lot of it's thick history, but you'll see testimonials, you'll see more about anything regarding to me or my work. And it leads into a website called Spiritual Coaching for Children, which is basically supporting a family more than the child. It's got to start with parents too, or whoever the caretakers are. Who are you? What are your gifts? And what are you here for? That's for everybody. Because some adults at any age are still figuring that out. And it opens the doors and windows for the children. Because if parents aren't doing their own homework, it's harder for children to stay in that place where they're beaming the love and the light. They take on a lot of the family history without even anyone knowing. So I'm going to talk a little bit more. I want to make sure I mention anything that seems important since I have this opportunity. So I'm just going to take a pause. Okay, a little bit more about Fire Love. The reason I'm calling it Fire Love is that there's a lot of healing that can germinate when we call upon the power of divine love. But it's stronger if we're asking for the power of light to work with the love. And again, in this book, I mentioned the relationship between love and light, and they're really one, but it will help you to understand it better. When you talk about anything that's bothering you, right? And you think, gosh, how am I going to get this out of my head? I'm trying not to go have a drink. I'd like to figure this out myself. But if I need that, okay, do it maybe. But it has to do with your knowing that you have a healer, not only within, but you have a healer that's extremely emphatic that you not desert this for any reason. And what I mean by this is, if any person in this life has suffered more than you might have expected, like, wow, it's been a wild ride and I'm still in it, start calling upon the divine light to do its work with the word Ka. I mentioned that earlier. Ka, and you can look some of this up, but some of it will not be found because it's a download for me that I trust, because I work a lot with the higher beings that many of you would recognize. I came from a family that was very Christed, but I had to deviate and do it in my way. But that's pretty much what it's been for me. But the love being that we are, we're not here to be sold out. But sometimes we still can't figure out how to work with it, how to work with the process of really shifting something. And a lot of people promise that in all kinds of classes and workshops and so on, YouTubes. And it's about finding what works for you and who really helps you. But this idea of love as power, it's the light. And the way I would call upon my story to shift, whatever it is, I would call upon Divine Ma. Okay, I have a YouTube channel. It's not as current as I would like it to be, but there is one on Divine Ma. And it's a phrase that came to me out of the blue, like most things do for me. And Divine Ma has to do with divine love that's one with the earth. And why that would pertain to this talk is that the love that's one with the earth is empowering beyond measure. I just want to call it, describe it that way, because I can't come up with any terminology that would begin to allude to what this is. But it has to do with all the planets that we learn about in school. We never were told that we were also so connected to all the love that's not only in our planet, but it's out there. Now, if that's, again, way too much for you to swallow, that's okay. I'm going to keep going. But it has to do with the love that's inside of the body that does not need to stay small. So we have a reach through our love, the love that we experience intermittently, maybe. We're not isolated from other love anywhere. So what's the point of this? The power of divine love is not, it's not here to sound small, not only, but it's not here to be underestimated. Because all that we've ever read in scriptures or heard in any kind of a blessing, or even some of the monuments we see where the statues of famous people seem so astonishing. And there's so much reverence for certain ones that have made a big difference. We have the same almost power as anyone who's done anything that has made them famous. And I'm saying accomplishments that have supported other people, people who have invented things that have made all the difference. Thomas Edison, like these people who would stay up all night and try things endlessly. Where did that come from? Or famous composers, where did that come from? Not that any of us necessarily want to do any of those things. That was a lot of hard work. But if we're going to be here, we might as well keep downloading more of this light from the heavens, wherever you want to call it from, mostly the heavens. I don't think I want to go anywhere else. But also the healing light that's deep within ourselves, that we can activate it just by calling upon the light in the core. Okay, because the core, or call it the abdominal area, is one example of where nothing is unstoppable. And it's interesting because we see in the martial arts that the power often comes from that part of the body to do whatever is being done to create an impact. When I talk about the abdominal area, that is where I associate the soul as being most reachable. If I wanted the soul to calm down a little bit, like maybe I'm still really upset about something that happened, and you have a stomach ache, or you feel like this urgency in your gut, you just have to do it, right? When we feel that gut instinct, it's not just the stomach lining or any part of the digestive tract, it's your soul. And most people don't know that. And what a cool thing to understand, because it means that nothing's going to ever get in the way if you keep nourishing it with, I want to say, good water. Let's just start with good water, clean substances as much as possible. Anything that will help the body to just, digest well. But it doesn't mean that you have to be a purist. But what I've learned is happy counts too. What's my happy food? What's my happy anything? So there's a balance. But there's a joy in activating the power of that part of the body. And when we're open enough to the light that's inside of that part of the body, we can call upon funny words I'm getting, the graciousness of divine knowing to show up like never before. Because that divine knowing is the soul. The soul is in union with everything divine. And if it's not in union with it, it's because you've been through too much. But it doesn't mean it can't go there. But it needs an intention. It needs to be a desire. If this is something you're entirely even put off by or not desirous of, it's fine. This is for people who are at least interested in these ideas. And I bet you didn't know you were going to hear half of what you're hearing tonight, because I can't write this up ahead of time accurately, but I'm giving what's most important to the people who are present. That's how it works. The souls collect, and that's how my groups work. But the point of love now is that if we needed more time to get ready, let's say, maybe I wanted to get a new washer, and I don't have any clue as to how I'm going to find one that really works. I don't have the budget for it. So you just sit and you activate one thing. In your gut, just kind of own the fact that your gut knows you're worthy. Usually I would say heart, but this time it's the gut, because the gut being where the soul is very prominent, it's great buddies with the heart down the road. And that's why it's a quality experience to do this idea of fire love, because it's going to keep working together. And that is what kids do from the start. They get upset. Before you know it, they're loving your leg or something. It's like they know how to do this stuff until they're told, can't do that, you're too emotional, whatever it is. But the point is, we're going to keep going into the power of this. I want to call on one thing in the middle of this. I mean, when we worry about our figures, it's a common thing with women, we are putting everything upside down in terms of what's most important. Not to say that we all don't have some self-consciousness, that we don't feel like we look a certain way, but it has to do with the power of what I've referred to as Ka. Ka is it's almost like an indigenous energy, where we are so pumped to feel the ground beneath us, and we could do some I don't know, aboriginal movement or call into the wild, or like there's something in us that's so strong that nothing will get in the way. And that is the part that, boy, have we been missing behind computer screens, not getting as much exercise as we need, especially, I'm really referring to during the pandemic. But when we can get outside and be with anything of nature, it's better, right? But it's not only better because it feels better, just more delightful, the air is nice. It's because the soul cannot be compromised every day without some recovery in nature. And I think most of us know how good we feel when we go maybe out to wherever we go on a vacation, the Red Rocks, or there are a few places I've been watching my niece travel during vacation, so they're all in my head. But wherever you go to feel good in nature, the soul recovers not only, but it wants more, right? It doesn't want to leave. So that's when you go, okay, well, I'll do what I can but maybe during the winter when I can't get outside as much, I'm going to just cover my gut, my belly with my hands and do a blessing. Because our hands are love. There's no accident. People who learn have medical practices that are very kind. They not only are experts in their field, but they have a magic touch because their hearts are open. And that part is way underplayed in every profession. An open heart is important for real success. But the point of love that needs to be brought through now for anyone, if you wanted to try this, if you try this at home, is to put your hands on your core just for a moment and just have no particular thought. Just put your hands there. And for me, I'm taking a breath. Just seems to want that. And then I'm going to ask you to put your hands on the top of your head, which we call the crown in yoga or meditation. Put your hands on the top of your head. Again, not caring what your experience is. Why is this woman telling me to do this? Okay, now, if you put your hands out like this, if you could see anything energetic in your hands right now, and you might be one of those who does, you'd probably see a color. You'd probably see maybe green or yellow or some other color. And it has to do not so much with what I mentioned as chakras, the energy areas of the body, but it has to do with union of divine in the body from the core and from the crown. Because from the crown, we're open to the heavens. We're open to all that is divine. And the core, we've got a lot going on, right? Whatever we eat, maybe having some issue or not. Maybe somebody punched you in the stomach once and you've never forgotten it. There are all kinds of things. Maybe you fell in, once I think I fell on the top of my the bicycle handles and hit my stomach. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I should be more careful, because that's a pretty important point there. So I feel like the light wanted me to do this. Okay, I didn't really have this on my itinerary here, but it's the light is in everything, and to know that we are one with divine, not only here, but in the crown, but in the in the hands. I'm supposed to include those: the hands, the feet. We already know about the gut. I guess I mentioned that, and the spine. Okay, when we feel a little bit of upsurgence of energy, maybe from a meditation or a breathing technique, all that will light up. Okay, at times, whether we see it or not, and it will keep going. But it might not look like any color or anything, but it means we're reviving the parts of ourselves that are kind of on reserve, not so sure if I'm here all the way, if I'm really doing that well. So when we put our hands on those areas, even the feet, we are activating the light that's not only in oneness with that universal flow of light, but that oneness with our family, with the history of our family. It's all in union. And it doesn't mean you have to understand any of this, but I'm being given this example because everything in our world right now is about separation. Everything that's going wrong is about separation. You're bad, I'm good, or that country, this wonderful country, when we know there's a lot of confusion everywhere at best. And so if we're going to keep listening to whatever we listen to on the radio, the television, or on the internet, be careful, because you're being reassured that nothing is going well and the body will not cooperate with what I'm showing you tonight. Doesn't mean you want to be unaware, but some people consume it not only daily, but several hours a day. So be careful with what you've been given here. Okay. And also, I want to say that the light at this time, as crazy as things look at times in so many ways, the light is getting brighter in some parts of the world, not where we would perceive it, and we wouldn't necessarily notice it. But what I often feel in my body is, wow, I've never felt this bright in my life. And I've done practices that should have been enhancing it my whole life. But I think it's because we're in a collective of a great many people who are doing kind of the ultimatum in honesty, putting other people first. And that could be in all kinds of places, organizations, soup kitchens, you name it. But it has to do with who are we as, not generals, like I'm in charge here, but who are we with love that has something big going on, where I can touch a human being either through a phone call or through reading a magazine and seeing someone I know in it and calling them and asking, did you know you were in here? And that person never knew they were acknowledged for what they did. Where are all those people that you know that are doing things like that? Maybe you're one of them. But it has to do with knowing that when I talk about fire love, it's not different than any version of love offering or love that's being kindled by, let's say, a group of children, or they're saying a prayer for one of the children that just went to the hospital. All these things that we do aren't separate. But this fire love idea, it really, the value of it dismantles what is not love. And again, that's really another thick book. But it has to do with the frequency of the light with the heart, and it's plugged in to the earth, because we know we are part of that. And the more we do all other things I will recommend in the future, if you want to join me, that activation of love that's one with the earth is amazing. And somehow it changed me, so I experienced animals and children much more deeply. Like I was a mother beyond belief to children I'd never met and on. But the hallelujah to this is that no one is void of anything I'm talking about. And that's, again, coming from me. You don't have to buy this. But it has to do with the love of, if we're genuine and we're caring and we're open and we want to celebrate everybody's good fortune, there's nothing in the way of more love, more light, no matter what the person's history, no matter how many doors have shut in your face in one way or another. And that means even families, that have maybe disowned a family member for one reason or another. I mean, there's so many sad stories, but we know how many loving people there are to shift that and to help people to see a whole different reality. But we have to be awake to who those people are and to know that we all have unique gifts that are going to keep people realizing their own magnificence, because it could be a homeless person on the curb that brings the brightest light to your heart that you've ever had. And again, I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but I know that's true. And that's why I've learned or tried not to judge anyone, because I don't know what those gifts are that are waiting for me or someone else. Okay, so I'm just going to go through a little bit more with this book. And I think it's because something else I'm supposed to share. Because I'll tell you, the way my group works, we usually meet for an hour. And I usually know when I'm done. And I usually know when if it's time to stop early. So apparently I'm not quite done. Okay. It's a chapter heading called Love and Light Can Infiltrate Everybody. And I don't know if I'll read the whole chapter, I read small chapters, but it may be just part of it. Your divine heart can expand far beyond former constraints if you give it the authority to do so. By proactively opening up to the power of love in the physical body, one can create a more awakened experience. The more that one physically houses love, the more one is prepared to radiate the fullness of love and freedom in everyday life. How does one begin to embody healing power as love? There are many things to consider in life. Who are you with the freedom of love every day? Self-love plays a part in aligning with more love in the body. If you could see yourself through the eyes of a child, any current issues you may have with your physical self-image would lessen or more likely cease to exist. How deeply do any of us look into the mirror? If the mind alone is allowed to be the observer, it will often make unkind or harsh judgments. If one lightheartedly perceives that a change in physical appearance is needed, it might be helpful to do something about it, while being sure that the good or not good enough meter is removed. It is good to note that human standards are not always humane and can violate the innocence and awareness of the heart. So basically, the body takes notes, as I mentioned before, and the heart does as well. I suggest that you take an inventory of how resilient and forgiving your body has been to you over the years. This assessment might further deepen your appreciation of body's unconditional love for you. What might you have done or accomplished in your life had it not been for your body? Does your body ever speak to you? If so, are you paying attention? When one is grateful for all that the body provides, love can more easily co-create with you as a person. Embracing what is, rather than resisting what isn't, can relax the body, allowing for greater healing, comfort, and flow. Moving more deeply into the power of healing love can more clearly reveal and foster the dynamics of the heart's role in healing. In my groups and sessions, we align with a love that is not only generated from the heart, but throughout the power center, the core. It is where individuals can open up to divine presence and creative love. Now, creative love is a term I haven't mentioned, but I feel like I should just make a note that the love that we have within is always creative. It knows when we're off, it knows when we're on, and it inspires us not into more judgments of self, but how to rely on another person or find a situation that's going to alleviate whatever the issue is. Staying grounded or rooted in love. This is a key point. And it's the point I work on mostly myself because it's been the most challenging. Staying grounded or rooted in love can open up the physical body to greater peace. Joyous freedom is a great way to enable the flow of light and love throughout the physical body. The feet, the hands, the heart, the power of Shakti all engaged in play. And so you might find a way to stay rooted if that's something that's calling you. Some people are very rooted. But some of us who are very light, who are inspired to do healing and so on, we have to work extra hard, also because we're so empathic, on staying grounded or rooted. But one of the ways that I've used that I love is dancing, because again, joy is mentioned here. Like, it is the way the body recovers from anything. Joy. And dancing and great music make that much easier. Okay, I would also like to mention before I finish here, and there's going to be a little part at the end where you can sign up for free sessions, that there are many of us here who probably won't understand what I've talked about, and it's okay. And I feel like that's why I paused and I'm saying this now. If you even got a little bit, it's fine. But the major thing to understand about this protocol of my talking about these things is that there's a it's like there's a restoration of the body because of the vibration of what these words not are, but where they came from. And they came from divine love and its oneness with the earth. And it's because I had that one experience that this all started. And it's because I've shared this before with others, that others are figuring this out too, that we're not here to be isolated in a body that's not doing so well. We're here to feel free and empowered. So if you really caught almost none of it, I understand. And I know there will be a little time for questions and answers. And I will probably answer the ones that are that feel like they're timely now, but there will be opportunities for you to ask by contacting me through my website or email, or what I really encourage you to do is to try out the session starting next Tuesday. So I think I needed to say that because I realized I've had the same group for 3 years, and for some crazy reason, they've stuck with me. And it has to do with, I feel, something that's received, that it's something that people don't necessarily understand, but there's some impact that they can feel. And that, I guess, is part of the value, or a big part of the value, maybe that you showed up tonight. But again, I won't assume anything. I hope you've enjoyed it. And also, I would like to mention, I'm going to also make sure there's nothing big that I left out here. I don't think there is. That if anybody would like to have a personal session, those are listed. Anything I do is listed on my website, but some of the practices I'm doing now with groups, that's not on there. I haven't gotten to that, but it has to do with a personal session would have to do with anything that you're either curious about, or if you have any kind of even a procedure you're worried about that's coming up. It's not like I am ever wanting to be associated with being a medical person. I'm not. But I know that we all have knowledge that we have access to. And mine seems to be sometimes associated with things that will help an issue to be alleviated, be it worry or something else, or to bring light into the room where a person might be having an operation soon. You can do that on your own. But people have asked me all kinds of things. And if you look at some of the testimonials on the website, you'll see kind of the myriad of things that people have asked about. But it's pretty much anything that's creating a lack of joy or peace in life are the kinds of things that I can go into. And it's just the same way I've done this. Information comes. Sometimes there's a family alignment that's very helpful and gratifying, where I feel like, oh, your grandma really loves you. You know, that's the kind of stuff that can come up. And it's, out of the blue, because I usually know nothing ahead of time. So if there's anything else I've forgotten, so be it. Yeah, on a closing note, I just want to pay homage to my mother. And I usually tear up when I think of her, because she was such an ideal mother who actually had some qualities of fire love that I needed as a very small little girl, because I was small for my age. But she was a seeker, and she was intrigued by all kinds of books and stories. But one of them, one of the people she loved reading about was Edgar Cayce, and she had a lot of those books, and she really wanted to get to the library at A.R.E. So we finally made it down there, and she was so happy. So whenever I think of A.R.E. and Edgar Cayce, I remember my mother, who I'm so grateful kept the doors open for me to be who I am, which is a pretty free spirit, not conventional. And she was always eager to find out what else I was learning so she could join in. So anyway, I wanted to pay attention to Juanita, who really, I feel strongly, went through a lot in her life, but made her life work because she loved so much. Okay, so I guess, Ashley, we're ready for some questions.
Yes. Wonderful. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. I really enjoyed everything that you had to share. Such beautiful just reminders and hearing some new things as well. I really do love that. And just the topic in general is just so important. And, love, absolutely. It cures all. It really is the answer to everything. So I just wanted to say, for any of our guests watching, if anyone has any questions or comments, please feel free to share them in the chat box on the Facebook page. You can write a comment there. But in the meantime, I did want to just, have a ask for your sessions that you're offering. What's the best way that someone can get in touch with you for one of those sessions?
For the personal sessions?
Yes, one of the ones you were offering.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
For guests joining tonight.
Yes, the free sessions we're offering. One of my teammates is on Facebook Live now, and I believe she's got a link where people can sign up with their email address, and then more information will be sent by me as far as the exact time. And I can tell you the time. It's 8:00 on Tuesdays, and it will be for the next 3 Tuesdays starting next week. And that's pretty much it. You just show up on Zoom, you get a link, and that's it. Mm-hmm. So can you tell, Ashley, is that on there? Can you see it?
Yes, I do. And the associate with you is Pamela Ray. So if anyone is looking, it's a comment from Pamela Ray, and that is the link to access for those sessions. So during the sessions, what do you like to, what are we offering during the sessions, and what type of modalities do you like to bring in to assist the person?
That's one of the questions.
That was one of my questions.
Oh, good. Okay. I'm just curious. Yeah, it's good. Okay, so really, the main thing is, if it's a good time for people, it's always good for me to know that, because I can also schedule maybe a different night in the week, because it depends on how many people keep signing up. I'm happy to expand the number of sessions I provide. But if it's at 8:00 and you've had some dinner, you're not hungry, don't have to eat a lot, but just satisfied, there's really nothing. The main thing is to be in a space where there aren't any interruptions. Put your cell phone away or turn it off. Because really, I know we can all kind of click off the video and nobody knows what you're doing, fixing dinner. And it's kind of a waste of your time to do it that way, because what starts to happen if you, this is all you need, is just to sit comfortably without interruptions, tell everybody you need an hour, and turn anything else off that you don't have to worry about. And then you're just sitting listening. But sometimes there'll be things that I might ask, like it could be some breath techniques, or I might teach you some new sounds, or working with the body with different sounds that would activate more of the core, more heart-centered experiences. So it has a little tone of well, I'll just say a number of modalities, but they tend to be very brief, because the idea of it is I'm not here any longer to teach as I used to teach anything spiritual. Because I used to spend a lot of time with people in something I used to call listening to the heart and spirit. But it has now to do with the voice, my voice, but anyone who wants to pitch in and say, well, this is what I just felt, or this is what just happened to me. And usually we do that at the end, but that is not something that will necessarily be the case. I'm also very flexible as to however I'm guided. I want to do what's best for everyone. And so sometimes too, not everybody wants the same thing. So some people are just quiet. They don't want to offer anything. But, and a lot goes on in that silence. We've really undervalued the power of silence. And I think that's why, a lot of yogis sit on mountaintops and gain enlightenment, because they're doing something up there, right, and they're presenting a lot of light for the universe by doing that. So does that answer?
Yes, it's wonderful. What are some other ways that you like to stay or grounded and rooted, and that you can share for others? I know you shared you like dancing. That's one of my favorites as well. But I just wanted to know, like, what are some other suggested ways?
Okay, it's a great question. I feel like the main thing is to spend enough time either through your walks or even sitting outside in a chair, really in the adoration of what you see, the trees, the little animals, and that comes pretty naturally, but most of us just don't take the time. But even though it seems like we're just sitting there looking and maybe enjoying to some extent, we're embodying the presence of it's divine so strongly through nature. It's more than I can ever give words to, but it's there. And I feel like many of us have gotten to the point where we love spending time around trees. And what I've been doing sometimes is just leaning against a tree, putting my feet on the roots of the tree, and sometimes I even talk to them and thank them for being there. So not necessarily that all that's going to ground you, but at least it's kind of warms you up to knowing that you too are planted on this earth. And you too, this comes up a lot in my own kind of inner dialogue, have roots. And the way we stay rooted is to even sometimes think, okay, if a tree can have roots, so can I, because trees, they bend with the wind. They're pretty stable. And there's so many qualities to trees that I admire. It's like you can love a tree. People aren't always easy, right? But there's just something about hanging out with trees. But I think there are probably some yoga postures you can look up that help with that. But I think anything, even yoga, that you can do in the out of doors. And when the weather gets cold, you can still work it. See if there's anything else. The main one I'll say last is that sound ka. If you're outside and you're maybe you're surrounded by here I've got quite a bit of trees. You've got a lot of trees. Try making a sound and see if you feel anything, because I feel like sometimes the trees, they recognize our presence by sometimes they start swaying more. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but it's funny how sometimes nature will send signals, and then we can get more aligned with our roots by knowing, yeah, we're not alone. They're here too.
Right.
So anyway, I hope that was of some help.
Yes, no, that's beautiful. I think I love the main point that you said, that the main part is that no matter what you're doing outside, as long as you have the admiration of the beauty around you, that you're really admiring the simple things, because that's something that I hear often. People say, stay grounded, go outside, take a walk, but depending on your state and your nature at that time, or the environment around you, it could still come off as very negative. Or, if you're just in a deep place, it's hard to admire the beauty of things no matter where you are. So I think that's the most important part of that. So thank you. That's beautifully said.
And I really wanted to tell you, it's almost a trigger for me. I've had so many people say, well, get grounded, just like you said. It's almost, the idea of grounded is misunderstood, because my experience now, knowing that love as one with the earth, me being grounded means I'm plugged into that love too.
Right.
I'm not just plugged into the soil and the root system. I'm plugged into that love. So there are times when I'm really not that grounded, and somebody else's recommendation is not going to work for me. It's almost, it's frivolous, or it's superficial.
Right.
It's so much deeper than that. So give yourself I don't know, an applause or something for owning your way of doing it, because we all have our own ways. Yeah.
Right. That's wonderful. Thank you. Well, I don't see that we have any comments or questions here. So I have a few people, watching. So, but I just wanted to say, thank you so much for sharing everything. I love the story you shared about your mother and, your connection to, Edgar Casey's A.R.E. And I know that she's definitely proud that, you're here with us today and sharing that. So thank you so much for sharing. So we'd like to end it for this evening. Thank you so much, Mara, and everyone else for watching and joining us this evening. And we'll see you next month, September 14th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right. Have a good night.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Bye.